Alright, we're back. And we got another episode of the Tacho Show today. So, we got our Grand Hero Battle copies of Mauvier, and this dude is actually pretty badass. So, we're going to check out some builds for him, and we'll also compare him to other similar Grand Hero Battle and Tempestral units, and figure out whether or not he is a worthwhile investment. And spoiler alert, yes, he is actually a very awesome unit. So let's go ahead and take a look at his weapon now. He does have a perf weapon, which is very good. So Penitent Lance, it's got 16 might and 1 range. It gives him a flat defense up 3. Then at the start of turn, if his HP is over 25%, he is granting Hexblade and Null Panic to himself and allies in 3 spaces. That's a really generous condition there. 3 spaces of him. You're getting 2 really solid effects there, Hexblade and Null Panic. Hexblade is actually really good for melee combat because not a lot of people are running near save units. Like, if they're running far save, they're typically just going for the far save armors like the new Christmas Byleth and also the Valentine Myrrh and things like that. All of those units are far savers. So if you're able to enter melee combat and target the enemy's res instead of defense, that can be a huge game changer and add a lot of damage to your melee type options. So a really good support to be getting there. Null Panic as well, just like turning off the enemy's ability to flip your bonuses is really good. Then also, at the start of combat, if his HP is over 25%, he gets a guaranteed follow-up, which is very good because this man is very slow. He's only got 18 base speed, so the guaranteed follow-up is appreciated. Then he's also inflicting a penalty on the foe's attack and defense equal to the number of active bonuses that he's got on himself, not including stat bonuses, times 2 plus 6 for a max of 12. So he's already giving himself 2 bonuses. He's got Hexblade and Null Panic. So that would be 2 times 2 for 4 plus 6, which is 10. So he only really wants 1 more active bonus, which he could actually get on himself by running it in the C skill, or from an ally giving him a supported effect bonus from the start of turn. So either or is fine, but pretty much, we'll take a look in the builds. There is a C skill you can give him to easily get the full 12 here and also the best effects. And then also, if the number of bonus effects active on him is greater than or equal to 3, then he reduces damage from the foe's first attack by X% in combat, and X is going to be equal to 80 if the enemies can do a follow-up attack on him, which they most likely will. 18 base speed, and then he doesn't have any wary fighter effects, so it's very likely they're going to hit him twice. And if they can't, then it's only going to be X is 40. And this is Brave Attack DR as well. So if the enemies have Brave Attacks and they're hitting him twice in a row, it's 80% DR on both hits, which is pretty significant. And his defense is really fat. He's got a base 46 defense with the Super Boon and 50. Super Boon 450 there. So he's going to skyrocket up to 50 base defense. And it's going to be really tough for enemies to break through him when they can only target his defense with melee types. You can easily protect him with his lower res by having a far save armor that can soak up all the magic attacks for him. So very, very awesome stuff. Now, the rest of his stats, he's got 42 HP, 44 attack, and then he's got 35 defense. So altogether, this gives him a 185 BST overall. A little unfortunate he couldn't get that 1 extra point because that would have jumped him into the 186 bin. And then with the Super Boon, he would have been in the 190 bin. So just 1 extra scoring tier that he could have entered with 1 more BST. But it is what it is. It's perfectly fine. So now let's go ahead and take a look at his base kit here. So his weapon we already covered. It's very good. He comes with Ignis, Seal Attack 3, and then Rouse Attack and Defense 3. So Seal Attack 3, kind of dookie. There's really not much we can do with that. Even if you wanted to give him Seal Attack level 4, I don't even think that's his best option for the beast skill, or even his best secondary option. So that's a big rip. However, Rouse Attack and Defense 3, we will definitely take that, because the C skill of choice for him is going to be Alarm, Attack, and Defense, and it's going to be on all the builds that we run here. So it is nice that he comes with the prerequisite right out of the gates at the very least. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some units we can compare him to. So the first one would be Mathis, who is the latest recent release Cavalry Lance type besides Mauvier. So if we do a stat comparison here, they have the same HP. Of course, Mathis gets 5 extra flowers because he's a later release. All right, he's got 45 attack. They tie on attack, actually. Now, this is where Mauvier blows Mathis out, because this guy's got a ton of speed for no reason that he really doesn't need. 34 base speed versus 18, or 19 with the flowers. So, a bit of an advantage there, because that means he can buff up his other stats quite a bit. So, 40 defense versus 47, which Mauvier blows him out. And then 36 res versus 27 res. Again, Mauvier blows him out. So, much more tanking capabilities, no needless points in speed, which is very good. And then Hawkeye, who is the other contemporary lance type. Although Hawkeye is infantry, he is still the most recent, like, high attack, high defense lance type with low speed. So Hawkeye's BST is a little bit better, of course, because infantry types just get more stats. So Hawkeye's got 3 more points of HP, 3 more points of attack, 4 more points of speed, 5 less defense, so Mauvier is a little bit tankier on defense. And then Hawkeye's got 3 more points of res. So Hawkeye is just better stat-wise. But this Hawkeye does not have a perf weapon, whereas Mauvier does. And Mauvier's perf weapon is really, really good. So that's where the advantage lies for him. Also the better mobility, being a cavalry type. So here is a BST check, the arena score calculator. We don't have Mauvier added yet, but Mycen is another contemporary unit that scores in the same bin as Mauvier. So Mathis does not score as high as the other 2 options. Hawkeye scores the highest, but Mauvier scoring just 1 tier below at 760 versus 762. And then, of course, with the allied support with Hexblade and Null Panic, you can't really ignore that. So I think even though he may not score as high as Hawkeye, he still has a lot of value. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at some builds here. So this is the first build we've got for Mauvier. His weapon does not have -1 special trigger, but we can patch that up pretty easily with Mart's Emblem Ring. So running no quarter on him, that would allow him to nullify DR when he procs it, and the -1 brings it down to a very neat 2-hit cooldown. So all you would need at that point is special acceleration from somewhere. There's many ways to do that. You can get it from Citrine's support if you give her, what is it called again? The one that Alir had. I can't remember at the moment. Pledge, I think it was. Attack and Speed Pledge. So then Citrine would be able to pass out acceleration. There's also legendary Hinoka. Or you could go for the breath option by having units that grant passive breath effects. That would work as well. Or just even run the passive Seal, Steady Breath, or Heavy Blade if you want a player phase. So it's not too difficult for him to get to the acceleration and get to his no quarter. We've got Attack and Defense Prime 4, which works perfectly with the way his weapon works. He just wants to have a lot of active bonuses, and that's going to be very easy to do with Prime 4 and his weapon. Then we've got Mystic Boost 4 here. This is an interesting choice because it nullifies enemies' abilities to do adaptive damage to him. So they're forced into targeting his high defense, which is not going to work out too well for a lot of the melee-type units in melee combat. He's going to crush all the God Swords if they're not able to, like, do damage to him. And even if they're nullifying DR, he's got a ton of DR, right? Like, he's getting up to 80% with his weapon. But that doesn't even matter. If the enemies are nullifying DR, but then they can't break through his high defense and color advantage, it still doesn't matter. So I think Mystic Boost, negating their ability to have Hexblade and do adaptive damage to him, is better in this case. And then he's still protected against the ranged threats like the mages by just giving him a far save partner that can tank all the magic hits for him. Then we also have Alarm, Attack and Defense, which, like I said, is going to be on all these builds. It's the only C skill that seems worthwhile for him. And then we have Attack and Defense Form 3, and then we also have Deathblow Echo, which Deathblow Echo isn't really that crazy, but it's the only Echo skill that he can actually use. So that's the only reason it's there. Attack and Defense Form gives us the highest Attack and Defense combo boost in the Sacred Seal slot, so that's why I decided to go for that. It can also be a good player phase or enemy phase option. It's nice for dual phasing. So that's pretty much the first build we've got from Mauvier. Here is the second build. Now this one is really dirty because we're getting a lot of effects that can mess with the enemy. So Attack and Defense Clash 4 is nullifying his penalties, while also he's giving himself Null Panic on his weapon. So no panic and no penalties. And then also with Lull Attack and Defense, you're nullifying the enemy's bonuses. So this is a really nasty combo. Basically, he's like telling the enemies to fight him. 3 stock, final destination, no items, fox only. Pretty much. That's the energy with this build. It's pretty solid, though, especially if the enemies are just going to be targeting your defense and he's protected by a ranged defensive option like far save units. So he should be looking good there. And then we got guard for the seal, so we can inflict guard on the enemies and make it harder on them to activate specials. But feel free to run any other sacred seal if you want. You don't have to go for guard. So any stat boosting ones like attack defense solo or attack defense form or squad ace BT, I think is the one that gives you HP 5 and then attack and defense 3. That's an option too. And then once again, Deathblow Echo just because. And here is the final build. So, of course, his weapon not having -1 special trigger gives us the option to go for Gambit 4. And in this case, we would not use Mart's Emblem Ring because it's going to mess with Gambit. So, just going completely naked with the Aether there. So, that's going to give us some healing and also Luna if we can activate it. Going to be difficult to do, but if you can get the special acceleration for him, then if you hit the enemies once and then they hit you back and then you hit them again, your Aether will be charged up for the next round of combat. Or if you've got like Asker support or Raphael support to get the -1 without having to run like -1 special trigger with Emblem Mart's Ring, then he can activate it in one round of combat with acceleration support, and he should be cooking pretty good there. We've got Earthfire boost for the A-slot passive here. This one inflicts guard and then gives him HP 5 and attack and defense 7. So really nice skill there. Again, alarm, attack, and defense, and then squad ace BT3 gives us HP 5 and then attack and defense 3. So 10 plus 10 HP and then plus 10 to attack and defense between this Sacred Seal and Earthfire boost. Pretty good. And then we have Deathblow Echo there for the Echo skill once again. So pretty much covers us for the builds here. There aren't really too many other skills that you can go for. Now, you could try Ruptured Sky on him with Emblem Mart's Ring, because that gives it a one-hit cooldown. And if you're comboing that with Legendary Alir support or Legendary Camilla support, then he's going to be able to cut DR a lot more consistently than he would be if he was running no quarter. So that could be an option if you want to go for that. Flow Desperation gives him half a null follow-up, so he can bite through wary fighter effects and possibly get a speed check double, but I didn't want to show a build like that when his base speed is so terrible. And you would probably even have to invest in speed a little bit still if you're running Flow Desperation. So you'd have to run like, I don't know, Blade Session or Attack Speed Solo or like one other skill to boost speed you would probably have to go for to really get doubles on him, because his weapon is not giving him any speed at all. It's only giving him attack and defense debuffs to the enemy. So that is unfortunate, but maybe it could be an option if you want to double enemies like that. Guard 4, of course, inflicts guard, gives you 30% DR and attack and defense -5 on the enemy, I think. Or maybe it's just attack -5, I can't remember. And for the Sacred Seals, you could go for Distant Counter M, which allows him to score a lot better. You'll definitely be wanting to do that if you're playing him in Arena. But otherwise, I think Prime 4 actually has us covered for Distant Counter, so you don't really need to go for this seal outside of Arena. Steady Breath and Heavy Blade, of course, because they give him the acceleration, which he really needs. He doesn't have it on his weapons, so these are really good effects. Steady Breath for enemy phase and Heavy Blade for a player phase. And then Attack and Defense Solo 3, just another stat-boosting seal that I didn't bring up. So there you guys go for the builds on Mauvier. Pretty awesome unit. The support is really nice. As I said, being able to grant Hexblade for melee units is pretty huge. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below if you're going to be building up Mauvier. And this is your boy Tacho signing out. So take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.